Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Greenhouse Chat. We have some names here of people who have religiously attended, so we're very happy about that. And any newcomers, or anybody that watches this later on YouTube, you're going to enjoy it as well. Dr. Mirza and I enjoy doing this Greenhouse Chat. And we just want to mention that we do not endorse any particular product or any particular company. We give everybody an equal chance. And if we give some advice, which we willingly do, then please use your adult senses to try a few things first. What may work for one person, or advice that works for one person may not work for somebody else. So be wise and careful to try anything new. But we hope you enjoy this. And tonight, we are hoping to hear from you. Like I said in the announcement at the Greenhouse Forum, because we are getting close to opening the greenhouses. Some of you are probably already open, so we would like to know that. And we have a couple of questions. Are you going to increase your pricing? Are you going to be fearful of the potential water sharing or drought? Do you have any questions for us, what we think, or other members, what we think? We have some people from Saskatchewan, and of course it's the same there as it is here, but I wouldn't mind hearing what your planning is for pricing, or what you have done. We've got a couple of examples, but what's also important is that Dr. Mirza has prepared a few things, and we'll start with that. Mirza, we'll start with your presentation first. That may lead us into some other things, and the key here is to see how little, how big of a difference it makes if something goes sideways. And today we had a little discussion, Mirza and I, this morning, about something that was tentatively going sideways at HiQ. So hopefully he's included some of those slides. So Mirza, it's time to share your screen.
Okay. Okay. Everybody could see the screen, I guess.
Yep, we can see this.
Yeah. Okay. I'll briefly talk about bird nest in the chimney. So this happened as well. It has happened after a long time. Sparrows eating cucumbers. Why are geraniums wilting? Is there a difference between farm fertilizer and greenhouse fertilizer? And some more growing pains and rewards. That this is a very critical time when you are ready to open the greenhouse. So you like to see all of your plant in a good shape. So if something is happening, this means that you didn't listen to our greenhouse chat. We have been talking about pH and EC and diseases and mildews. So we try to give best information. So sometime when you get too busy, you forget things. Okay, and of course, without her, I won't be talking. So my granddaughter, she has started her ponytails now, and she's eating quite a bit of greenhouse vegetable. It's just amazing. She had developing a taste for almost every food. Today, we introduced to her lentils and rice, and she loved it. So she's really a good balanced diet. She loves it. First, she tries a little bit and register the taste, and then we'll eat it.
But Mirza, is she used to some of the spicy foods that you eat traditionally?
Yeah, we are slowly introducing her. She's used to a little bit of black peppers now. So, but full of energy. It always, when I look at her, how she's learning, because our own childhood, we don't know. The parents tell us how you are learning. She has learned to climb the stairs with supervision. She has learned how to get down by turning around. on her own. She's familiar with the cell phone that you put your finger and things will be happening. She could turn on some music, so quite interesting, you know. And when we, as an adult, we learn, of course, our model is different, you know. In a greenhouse chat, we are learning, and sometimes we forget, but kids don't forget because their memory is expanding. In their computer, uh, she's uh, she has started saying few words as well. My Dada grandparent is my mine is the first one, and I'm very happy to report this. All right, bird's nest in chimney. Every year, grows tell me about it. Sometime after damage is done, how could a bird nest in a chimney? They're either I've seen in a hot water exhaust pipe, but not living bird. You know, they put a nest there when probably those things were off, and their babies fly away, and they're flown away, and suddenly you realize that you are smelling fumes in the greenhouse, or sometimes slight damage to tomatoes as well. Never take your CO2 from any of these exhausts, you know. So happen mostly in seasonal greenhouses. Baby birds are gone and nest is left. The exhaust may come back into the greenhouse and must be checked early to get rid of them in time. That is very, very important. Highlight was these two pictures a grower sent me, and fairly good grower, large grower in Edmonton area. The complaint was that right at this stage plants are wilting. You know, so right away I knew what's happening. That the root development is good, top is very heavy, and I will show you the picture. Basically, when we are busy transplanting and plugs, sometimes minor details are missed. For example, growing media, if it's gone through your tunnel where you have misting system, it is not wet at the bottom because you have to do it 2 3 times to make sure that all the so the when you put the plugs in, they get their covering gets dried out, and the roots are not coming out, and that's exactly what has happened in this case. So right away, some plants are already dead here if you look at my cursor as well. So wilting is the first sign, and every year growers give me some geraniums, and I check them. This is from last year. I didn't check the other one. So based on your watering practices, on the right-hand side, good watering practices, basically plants are watered about 10% of the saturated rate. That's where you could see the roots developing outside as well. Middle is an overwatering situation. A little bit of sodium was an issue there as well. You don't see the roots, but look at the top. They're already flowering. So you're happy. Oh my God, they're pretty good. They're pretty flowering. And those are the plant which wilt. And extreme wet and dry cycle is on this one. So when I wash them and take the roots, this is what comes out. Notice here on the right side, beautiful plant. But look at the roots, very poor root development because the plant didn't get enough time to stay vegetated. You know, either they were delayed or there was some difficulty with watering practices. So these are the plant which will wilt and you will get complaint from the customers as well. Middle is not too bad. They have a good balance here, good root development. Tops have flowers. And this is the other case that excellent root development is there. So this is a good, nice balance there. So you have to watch that. It is too late to correct them now unless you repot them and start. Yeah, so attention has to be paid to your practices, which we discuss here, which were well known, but because large volume has to be handled, so sometimes things are missed. This was from last year as well. a classical example, top-heavy plots. When the grower sent me these pictures, this is how they look like in the basket. And they were also started wilting. They were not growing, deficiency, stretching, you name it. And when got the picture, this is how they look like. The roots never came out of the plug, are very minimal. And that's not the fault of the covering which is used there. It's just not enough water was there at the right time. So once they get dry, then very difficult, roots get damaged, plants have to redo it. So that's a total loss of the petunias in that case. I just received this a few minutes ago on Michael, what is this crop? Oh,
Impatience.
impatient. Okay. Yeah. So they're generally starving, and many growers, what they do is in an effort to hold them, they stop fertilizing them or reduce the fertility. But we got to maintain our color during the season. So I know nature source calcium is being used. One of my old formula to correct these is 0.5 gram of calcium nitrate, 0.5 potassium nitrate, and 0.5 magnesium sulfate. Again, a caution, if you are mixing it all together, that is good in a tank. If you are using an injector, then either keep calcium separate. This is a good hardening formula as well, and will maintain good color on them, and they'll be nice. Customers buy their product based on visual, first visual, that they are flowered, they're looking good, they're good dark green color. Green color is always appealing, and in this way you are able to maintain color. And I know Michael does recommend a higher rate for nature source, so that is everybody should be aware of that. Few things came on vegetables. Hi, Dr. Mirza. We have cucumbers in the greenhouse that are just about ready to start harvesting. What is wrong with them? So obviously, picture on the left-hand side, they are starving. The loss of color on them. On the right-hand side, there's a water stress on the plant. Cucumber love water. Many times commercial crop have to be given 3-4 times daily. They have to be given water properly with fertilizer. So that's basically was a starvation situation of the nutrient. A cucumber react pretty rapidly if they don't get fertilizer. The chlorophyll is not made properly. Photosynthesis goes down. Plant is not making enough food, cannot support the cucumber, and it could happen pretty quickly in few hours, because they don't have any reserve of food. Inside the leaves, nitrogen is mobile, potassium is mobile. It could be moved from lower leaves to the upper leaves. So if lower leaves are showing like this, top is still good. So you still have a time to apply the fertilizer and proper watering. This cutworm came in. Somebody sent me a picture. I couldn't understand what leaves are. Michael, any idea at all? That's
Well,
not cabbage.
yeah,
No,
no, yeah, it could be a leafy cabbage or a maybe yeah, like an ornamental cabbage,
looks
because
like
the foot cutworms like that.
yeah, looks like the leaves are, like my
Yeah, could also be a Brachmansia, like with the variegation.
yeah. But look at how happy he's nesting. He chewed upon the leaves as well. And the grower was very humanitarian. He didn't want to kill it, let it mature and go. So be alert with that. Right now, this morning humidity is about 19%. I was shocked, that low humidity plant desperately need to transpire. So make sure your EC is not going over 2.2. pH, of course, we always have emphasized. High EC or going over 3 will cause a water stress on the plant. The principal EC just is a measurement of total soluble salt content in the growing media. So make sure that the plants are well watered. This
What
came in as
happens?
well.
Yeah, so if the plant is dry, and you have a borderline high EC,
Yeah.
then because of the water ratio compared to the salt ratio, changes because it's drier, then that escalates, that jumps the EC. It's kind of
Absolutely.
like so your EC would be higher in a dry plant if you measured it than even than in a wetter plant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one other thing is happening, especially with the vegetable crops, the tomato, cucumbers, peppers, with the high solar radiation we have got right now. Plant selectively take up water only, no nutrient. So remember, plants are pretty smart. If the sunlight is going over, say, 1,000 joules, generally from noon to 3 p.m., you will suddenly notice that your EC was good, but suddenly it has jumped to 4. I got some reading on tomato growers that the EC was almost 4.5, because plant want to evaporate more water to cool themselves, and that is if you take the water out of the growing media, then the salt will build up. And you may do whatever you like. You leach them, it still doesn't come down. So, the best practice at that time is you switch over to plain water if you can around noon time, and the 2-3 watering. Plant will take up that water and leave the growing media alone at that time. So mint's nutrient deficiency, again, a little bit of nitrogen is there, some potassium is there. So always paying attention to these right from the beginning is a good idea. This is where Michael and I we were talking this morning, scratching our heads, plant performance in large baskets. When Michael sent me those pictures, my first suspicion was that, Michael, how big was this basket? 24 inches type?
There's an 18-inch. It's an 18-inch basket, one of those ones with a reservoir attached
Right.
underneath. So and then the water wicks up. So this particular customer returns the baskets to us with the soil in it. And what they do is they take the oil soil out, they blend it, they add some fresh soil, and then they reload the baskets. And that worked quite well for quite a few years.
Yeah.
But we think that there's been enough composting going on that the fiber, the structure of the soil is no longer as good as it once was. And then what happened was when we were planting these particular baskets, the soil was quite hard. It was quite hard to get the plug in. And they basically stayed in the plug. They never grew. So we have a compounding effect of plants that are trying to grow, but are restricted. And there was no roots coming out of the Alapot. And eventually the plant, just starved. It just the picture on the right is where the plant actually died. While the roots are still there. Mirza and I looked for root decay. We looked for root or stem rot. None of that. The picture on the left, we first suspected maybe a pesticide or a herbicide damage, because you could see that it's a bit curled. But we ruled that out because it wasn't on anything else. And you can, when the Alapot is broken open, like in the middle of in the middle picture, that one is I broke the casing of the Alapot, and that plant was purple. You can see that between my fingers that the plant was purple, and it just ran out of steam. Like it tried and tried and tried, but so Mirza said, why did you do an EC and a pH? So the EC read 5. The pH read 5. The pH was 5, and the EC was nearly 3. So 2.7, 2.8, somewhere there. So Mirza said the plant had no desire to make new roots into that soil, for all these reasons compiled. I mean, the plants, like you say it all the time, Mirza, plants are pretty resilient. They try to grow even under adverse conditions if you don't fertilize, properly, they'll still try to grow. But this has been in the in this soil for 3 weeks, and we have lots of stuff comparable like that's growing somewhere else in the same greenhouse that did do well after 3 weeks of transplanting. But it was just a series of things that were wrong that caused this plant not to want to grow. So we spent the afternoon leaching the soil. And Mirza said earlier it's important to keep your soil wet, and we realized that we were on the dry side. I mean, we don't want to wet a basket that has a reservoir in the bottom. We don't want to wet that too much, because then you get that reservoir filling with water, and that's a lot of water for these little guys. So that added more insult to injury. And so we spent the afternoon watering. We had to water it 5 times gently before water started running into the reservoir. And tomorrow morning we'll take some of that water, Mirza, and we'll do an EC and a pH on it, and then we'll drain. We'll tilt these baskets, because of course they have an overflow hole. We'll tilt these baskets so that the water drains out, and then we'll do this again so that we turn the acid injector off so that the pH on the water is higher. And I left the calcium nitrate on, Mirza, turned off the nature source, so that to bump up the pH and to bring down the EC. So that was rather some emergency surgery here this afternoon in the ER.
Yeah. And always worth mentioning that we have talked about pH mostly from the context of iron deficiency or toxicity, but a very acidly pH 5 in a growing media always cause poor rooting, because roots, a lot of hydrogen ions are there, and at that pH root hair could get burned out very easily. So this is why we have been emphasizing that when you buy a growing media, most of the time they add enough lime to guarantee a pH of 5 or 5.1, 5.2. If you're looking at your the growing media labels, and that's why we always recommend add some potassium bicarbonate, 1 pound per bale, 3.8 cubic feet, pre-mix it, or you could make a 1 gram per liter solution and treat so that by the time the lime or dolomite lime added with the growing media start reacting, it's about good 3 weeks. The dolomite lime they add is not highly pulverized, and it takes time to react with water to bring the pH to that point. Michael, in the chat, there's a question, or just
that's Loretta saying how much she loves your granddaughter.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's give me a further purpose to live longer. Yeah, it's great fun. Thank you. This picture again from last year. The bedding plant grower, when they grow tomatoes, they are in a small 4-inch pot. And look at the very, very big tops are pretty heavy. Small pot, large plant, dry out very quickly. Need feeding constantly to make. They're really starving. All sort of deficiency. You could look at them, and pH was also about 5 on them, because of the nature of the fertilizer we use and water and everything. So I don't know. In my opinion, they are not saleable. They should not be on your. They should not go to that level, because tomato still is not a major crop, although tomatoes have increased in popularity. But compared to petunias and pansies and other hanging baskets, so always pay attention, because any loss of plant is an economic loss.
What I think, Mirza, too, is if you're going back up, so all of us grow tomatoes, and sometimes we grow large tomatoes with the tomato cage, and other ones, say a 1 gallon that has just a stick, or even a 4-inch or a pack. And I think what's important to realize is that, I don't know what time of the year this is, but to
Actually,
adjust your timing.
this is right in May.
Oh, is it? Okay, so then you adjust your timing.
Yeah.
This plant is like Mirza said, is too big for the container,
Yeah.
but for what you're selling, it doesn't need to be this big. It
Exactly.
should be
Yeah.
this big in an individual 4-inch, not in a looks like a cell pack,
Yeah.
not in a cell pack. So adjusting your timing does two things. It allows you to schedule things that grow fast later and transplant and seed things that need longer time earlier. So you spread your workload, but also you're not spending as much time cleaning these up. And the customer has to realize for what we charge for this pack of 4 or whatever
Yeah.
it is tomatoes,
Yeah.
that we don't charge a lot for that, so they don't get a big plant. If they wanted a bigger plant, try to provide that in a larger container. So
Absolutely.
there's but timing for your crop is very important. Like planting anything too early is going to cause a lot of work down the road, cleaning leaves, flower petals that fall everywhere, and the quality of the plant just isn't what it could be.
And it is also important to know, you notice some of the lower leaves are purple because growers generally drop the greenhouse temperature more 10, 12 degrees to keep plants under check. And tomatoes don't like it, So the moment the temperature goes that cold, then this is what happened. Although the picture of a commercial crop, but we call it cat facing. So what happened is due to cold temperature at the bud stage, and then the pollen, they don't effectively pollinate, so they become like this. So they are not edible, but not marketable. So that's the influence. What happened with those tomatoes in the greenhouse too cold the temperature, and under water stress, and blossom and rot could also come. So this is very, very important to trace back that if this happened, this means that back a month and a half ago, your temperature was dropping in the greenhouse at that time. It is not a disease or is not a fungal disease. That just is a poor pollination which happened. I had this time lapse photography picture a couple of years ago. These plants are grown, lettuce is being grown in an indoor situation. Fascinating, how I think this is a most a weak growth on. So if you're interested in time lapse, do it. It will be very interesting to watch for the kids. I could watch it for minutes, how they just keep on growing. Uh, Iron deficiency to alkaline pH at this time of the year. This is the old picture, but I have seen reports coming in. Mature plants showing iron deficiency. Basically, very alkaline pH is there. It affecting the flower as well. So just monitoring, and scouting is the key. Otherwise, this is a total loss in your plot. So pH adjustment is
Mirza,
not really, yeah.
so iron deficiency can happen under low pH as well as high pH then?
No, high pH.
High pH only.
Yeah, low pH as I showed in the next picture. So
Okay, sorry.
pH in soilless growing media, pH once start creeping over 6.4, it will give you a warning, one young leaf showing interveinal chlorosis. And if you don't pay attention to that, then more leaves will appear. And in this case, plants were not also getting enough food, you see, so just be alert. And acid pH is like this. This is a picture again I took. I use it many times when a grower called me. So this is April 30th. Also, good coincidence. Today is 22nd. So having a pH meter, we did an actual. So lower leaves, when the pH is that low, start going below 5.5. This is extremely low. Then iron, manganese, boron uptake is 4 or 5 times higher. And that goes into the leaves and it causes damage to those leaves. So they could recover if you correct the pH right away. Otherwise, the damage could be permanent. So alkaline pH over 6.4 causes iron manganese deficiency, slightly on the zinc as well, but on the acid side, geraniums are very sensitive to. I have given some tables in the last in our YouTube recording, so have a look at it. Which plants are compatible? So geraniums are very, very sensitive to pH 5.5 and below. So this was an actual leach reading of 4.7. This is also an old picture just to show you that be alert. Although I've not seen it for 3-4 years, geranium suppliers do a very good job of indexing. But once in a while, this pop up their head is a bacterial wilt of geranium, Ralstonia. So there's no case at this time. If you see wilting like this, a V-shaped lesion here, and the leaves start wilting as well, then alert me, like Michael, we could look at the picture. And then these are quarantable disease because it could spread to the potatoes and tomatoes. So we have to be very careful with that. Iron deficiency, same symptom. These are your Michael. Which begonia is that? Dragonwing?
No, that's a Boliviensis begonia because it has that pointed leaf. So
Okay.
like million kisses or Mistral, in that range with that bell type flower.
So pH was 6.4 in this case. And notice that it starts like this where my cursor is. A little bit of green color still there, but later on they will turn white. And that's the time when photosynthesis reduce almost 70-80%, plant cannot make enough food, that they will hang on for some time. So that's why the importance of monitoring the pH on a regular basis. This picture came this morning, a bedding plant, tomato grower, on starvation side, that leaves are yellow, they are purple a little bit, slight magnesium deficiency coming up here as well. And, they're not saleable. Plant are very generative, so I advise them to give proper fertilizer and recover them.
So generative means, that the plant is in a mode of starting to flower. And vegetative means that, it wants to grow leaves. And I think you want leaves first, and then you want it to start growing tomatoes, which is the generative part.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have talked about that tomatoes always produce 3 set of leaves. This is a not an indeterminate variety. Even there, they get pretty stacked up quite good. So 3 set of leaves and 1 set of flower. If you notice here, cluster is a pretty big one. Appearance of a cluster or flower size is a vegetative response. But the fruit sizing, fruit filling, they are a generative response. So very, very interesting that proper food has to be given to them. This picture was came just recently. Good morning. The pH is 4.8 and the EC is, these are ppm. People still have old ppm pens. So in case I like the EC better because that's a really hydrogen ion concentration. ppm value is part per million of total soluble salt. So 640, you divide this number will give you the EC in millisiemens or millimoles. So that's what I prefer to use EC values in millimoles. This is in a basket that has the white Thunbergia. Do I rip out the potato vine and keep adding the potassium bicarbonate to increase pH? How long it will take to reverse the effect? I had applied 2 buckets of the solution at 2000 gram. Can we be increased? So remember that once the pH goes that low, it will take good 3 weeks before they will recover because pH is logarithmic. 5 to 6 difference is 5 to 6, 6 to 7, it's not just doubling it up, they just 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100,000. So the way the hydrogen ions are measured. And it will take good 3 weeks before so that's why monitoring, plotting, so that we could save these plants much earlier is important.
So,
Uh,
Mirza,
yeah,
did you to answer the question for this grower? Do you think that the potato vine should be pinched or ripped out?
yeah, they still they will recover, so we could pitch them out. Yeah,
So you might want to, even pinch it or something, or clean up some of the dead leaves.
exactly. Yeah, that's always desirable, just to avoid any fungal things. Other question, at least two uh, growers called me on the use of slow release fertilizer. Uh, Many formulations are on the market. 14, 14, 14 is one of them. There are many other formulations. But one of the most interesting was that the bedding plant grower mentioned that in the rural communities, there's a lot of farming and there are many fertilizer supply companies, and they come and they say, oh, it's much cheaper, I could design this formula for you. So just be alert with that possibility that the greenhouse fertilizer are more soluble. I'll show you a slide, but in this case, if you look at the picture, they are here is the damage due to fertilizer. The problem comes in, many growers use a hanging basket. It is added when you're sown. You know that sometime in the beginning, was a rookie, I thought, oh my God, those are the eggs of an insect. So I've tried to break it, but no. So what happened is they're called slow release. Their formulation is lot of ammonium nitrogen, 14%. Anything above 7% is ammonium nitrogen there. So when you water them, some leaching occurs. If the water temperature is warmer, then more could be released. So if you are using right from the beginning, in those cell packs, if fertilizer like 14, 14, 14, then you have to make adjustment with any other fertilizer using. You know, this grower is also using nature source. Some have used 5627. So you've got to know then what you're doing, because some fertilizer will be released. That will be ammonium nitrogen. You are on a total nitrate nitrogen. So just be careful with that. I'd like to hear some comment on the use of slow release fertilizer. Please, any grower later on. Let me finish this one. So farm fertilizer, they are cheaper, no doubt about that. Uh, Greenhouse fertilizers are more expensive and highly soluble. That's why whole category of greenhouse fertilizer was developed in my lifetime. In 1980, all the vegetable crops have been grown in soil, in dirt. We say, okay, 1 pound of ammonium nitrate, we'll just spread it. Potash, just spread it so many pounds per square feet, until these regular fertilizer came in, soilless cultivation came in, highly soluble fertilizer came in. So farm fertilizer have only nitrogen, phosphate, and potash. That's all required by law, but they don't have any. I have not seen any magnesium and all the trace element. So they will say it's a complete fertilizer, but understand, for us, complete fertilizer has nitrogen, phosphate, potash, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, manganese, copper, zinc, boron, molybdenum, and chloride, you see. And solubility may be low in farm fertilizer as well. A pepper grower sent me, this is a typical pepper requires lot high boron level. So this is a boron deficiency, is not a virus. So remember that. And I use this old picture. Hi, Dr. Mirza, what is wrong with my lavender? I'm fertilizing. This is last greenhouse chat at this time of the year. With nature source and calcium nitrate. This is powdery mildew, nothing to do with nature source and calcium. a fungus which spreads under low humidity condition and start new infections under high humidity. And we have talked about mildew, and they could overtake. This morning, air humidity was 19%, 30%. So be careful, you have to, if you can't have fogging, misting, just spread some water on the floor and let it evaporate there. And strategies to control reduced PM infection. We have talked many times, but quickly spray alkaline water, potassium bicarbonate at 1 gram per liter. Mill stop is at 27% potassium bicarbonate. Even spraying water with a surfactant helps to dislodge spores. The fungus is very specific to host, so tomato one won't go on the cucumbers. How much potassium?
Mirza, another strategy is to, especially on the sensitive crops like leaves that have fuzz on them, rosemary and lavender, and dahlias. I heard a grower this morning that a dahlia, they found some powdery mildew on dahlias, and it is crucial, absolutely crucial, to keep your dahlias dry in the afternoon. So that's be the first thing you water in the morning if they need it. And do not be tempted. The soil might be dry, or the plant might even, you figure it needs some water in the afternoon. Please be tempted not to. Air movement, of course, is always good for preventing powdery mildew. Because then the whatever moisture is in the air, the humidity will kind of get distributed. So air movement and watering the plants earlier in the day will also help for powdery mildew.
Yeah, I think we already pointed out earlier as well. This powdery mildew resembles gray mold botrytis. It needs condensed water, high humidity for spore to germinate. And it needs dry humidity to spread. If you notice that suddenly new leaves are showing spots, that simply means that this spreading is your humidity is low. So it has to be managed a little bit differently than gray mold. So it requires moisture for condensation to germinate the spores, high humidity. So it takes advantage of both low moisture and high moisture. Yeah, so how much potassium bicarbonate should be added in RO water? Many growers who use RO water, they must be. So I made a calculation that potassium bicarbonate has 61% bicarbonate. 1 gram per liter is 610 ppm of bicarbonate. 0.1 gram will give you 61 ppm, and 0.2 gram per liter of water. So you could enough bicarbonate so that the pH will be stable. To raise pH from 5 to 7 quickly within an hour, one has to use 4 grams per liter. Maybe that's the other strategy for pH as well. But soak the growing media for an hour and then pour water to leach out extra bicarbonate. Otherwise, the EC will jump. So yes,
the pH will continue to rise if you leave that much potassium bicarbonate in the soil.
Exactly. Yeah. No, at 4 gram, it will jump from 5 to 7. So, but it will be within a couple of hours. So my strategy is monitor, don't let it go to that level. During crop, pH adjustment 1 gram per liter alone, no fertilizer, pH adjustment as a priority. Potassium bicarbonate also good for controlling powdery mildew. Okay, got a pat on the back this morning. Thanks so much, Dr. Mirza. You're such an abundance of information and valuable resource to the greenhouse. Unsolicited, okay? Don't blame me, but put it along with Michael. It's just always fun to do things together and help the industry as much as we can. Thank you very much. I will stop sharing and see any chat question is there. Or...
well, we have one thing in the message that Debbie is saying that she hasn't seen any mildew on dahlias. something is jumping in front of me. Mildew in dahlia. I haven't seen any mildew in dahlias in years. But we just saw some 10 days ago. Well, we just had 10 days of cloudy weather, and one variety is showing powdery mildew. It's interesting, though, that the other dahlia series don't. And you will hear breeders say, oh, it's resistant against this, or it's resistant against that. We have tomato varieties that have long series of acronyms behind it because they're resistant against certain viruses, or they're resistant against certain diseases. The same with dahlias and verbena. Breeders will have a claim to fame and say, like, oh, ours are resistant against verbena or against powdery mildew, and that is true, you know, to some extent. You know, it doesn't mean you can hee-ho the water on and have the plants go wet into the night, you know, and because then you're playing with fire, even on a resistant variety. But choice of varieties is sometimes important. If you're in a area where, you know, where it's damp, like earlier in the season, then you still have to be careful with water, because you could still develop powdery mildew, you know, under certain conditions.
Michael, there was a question from Anne-Marie on what slow release to be used. Debbie said Osmocote.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't like to use any slow release on the plugs or only on the hanging basket.
Yeah.
Maybe other girls want to share their experience with have they used any on the young plugs incorporated in the growing?
Well, you touched on that one grower that had blended slow release fertilizer in their you know, packs and pots, and what was really interesting is you know, that it showed damage in these small containers, while it wouldn't in the large ones, plants with larger soil volume.
Exactly.
And of course, we don't know how much they added to the bales of soil. But the thing with hanging baskets and slow release is that it can be added safely, because the plants go in small, and you know, it kind of regulates itself. But in a smaller container, it's often overdone in the slow release there. And the thing with slow release in a smaller containers, you cannot turn it off.
Exactly.
So in a small container, you're going to get excessive growth. In a hanging basket, that's kind of desired. So and it also benefits the grower as well as the consumer if you buy a slow release that has a lifespan of 6 months. Then it releases over that period. So when you say which slow release you use, also include how long of a period that you're buying. You know, do you buy 3 months, 12 months, 6 months? You know, so.
Yeah, to 12 months, they're mostly for the trees, I guess. But Osmocote 14 has been, but primarily for the hanging basket, larger plant.
Yeah, we use a one from Nutrien, you know, which is a special hanging basket one, 12/6/27, and that's the one we use.
Great.
Gail is saying I'm growing Sunbeckias for the first time. I have some plants gnarling, plants right beside them are growing fine. What causes these plants to gnarl? Mirza.
Okay, read for me again the question.
Gnarling, of course, is a very subjective term, you know, but I'm guessing that the leaves are crinkling. Gail, if you want to just turn your microphone on, say, like, are the leaves curling? Are they just crinkling up?
Yes, Michael. They're gnarled. The leaves are. If you close your fist, close the fingers. That's what they look like.
Okay.
I'm trying to attach a photo, but I'm not having success.
Well, at least send me by email to me and Michael, because if gnarling mean you know, fist like this,
Yep.
then it is worrisome. You know that we will rule out if there's any herbicide. Any spray going on in your area?
No, no,
Okay.
no, it's inside an enclosed greenhouse, and it seems to be just one variety.
Okay.
The Maya is gnarling, and only some of them, and the plant right beside is growing fine, and they seem to happen overnight. And I'm wondering, is it the first I thought, well, maybe there's a bug in there, and I took oh, what is an eyeglass,
Hand lens.
a hand
Headlamp,
lens, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And to see, I couldn't see anything on them. Nothing seems to be crawling on them.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I thought, well, is it a chill? Like, we grow in high tunnels and they're not completely sealed. We did have some cold weather. Did a chill go over some of the plants? Thinking perhaps.
I think send me, and then we will discuss it and maybe share in next chat.
Mirza,
Yeah.
sometimes when the point of a leaf is cut or not completely formed, that sometimes is a calcium deficiency. What do you think?
Yeah, it's always possible, but there are other telltale symptoms of calcium as well. So
Can you overcalcium? We use a nature source, and we have calcium nitrate added.
right.
And then I checked our calculations to make sure that we didn't over calcium. That we didn't add too much calcium nitrate.
It's really hard to overdo it with calcium nitrate. I mean, it can be done, of course, but it's very hard to overdo it with either nature source or calcium nitrate. So our recommendation is everything after transplanting 250 parts per million of calcium of nature source, which is 2 milliliters per liter. And 77 grams in 100 liters. That's the final solution. So 77 grams in 100 liters of calcium nitrate.
Yeah, I'd have to check to see what we're using. I do have a question off to the head grower of the supplier to see what they have to say, because those are very expensive plants.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they're very expensive plants, and I got a number of them in, and I don't want to lose that crop, and so I'm wondering what to do.
Yes, send pictures so that we.
Yeah, when you say you're already using calcium nitrate, then I withdraw my comment. But about calcium nitrate and the tip of a leaf being chopped, like being flat rather than pointy. So I've seen it on cucumbers, where the tip doesn't completely develop. So if you're already using calcium nitrate, that's probably not it. But if you could send some pictures, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll try to send some pictures, because it's definitely a mystery. I want to save this crop.
Yeah.
Quicker you do it, quicker we'll be able to help you.
What's the maximum amount of time a plug can sit?
I have a question for Gail, or for all of you, about her gnarled rudbeckia. Is it curled in a thick leaf?
Yes.
Could it have been PGR'd, you guys?
I don't use PGR.
No, but I mean, could it have had it? Like, we've seen things that we can only guess were PGR'd heavy, and then they're weird like that.
Yeah, and I had that last year on osteos.
Yeah,
where they stayed gnarled, and I know for a fact it was over PGR'd. Like, I just know it. Like, yeah, I've grown plants long enough to know what an over PGR is.
This seemed
to happen overnight.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be that.
I don't think so, Deb. I don't think so, because they were growing fine, and then they gnarled. They just gnarled.
It's when they come gnarled, and then they've been over PGR, not at your house.
Yeah, no, that's correct. That's correct. It's really a mystery, because I really want this crop.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's just one color, just Maya.
The Maya really stands out. but every day I go and look, there seems to be a little bit more. Like here's another one. Here's another one. I have 4 varieties in, 100 of each, and I just see them every once in a while. Here's another one. Here's another one.
Mm.
And so I'm looking for I'm looking for thrips. I'm looking for some kind of bug, but I just can't find one. I just can't find it.
The Rudbeckia, the Sunbeckia has quite a bit of hair on it, you know, like it's a quite a fuzzy leaf. So, you know, a bug would have a hard time, you know, gripping on, you know, but the only thing I could think of would be a cyclamen mite, you know, because they're so small you can't see them. But, you know, even that's unlikely because it's, you know, yeah, but send a picture to Mirza, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
I will. And here's the stickler. I've got the crop growing in gallon containers for sale, but I grew some in a 4.5 inch that I want to use to make different pots, container pots. The plants that I have in the 4.5 inch are all doing wonderful.
Are they in a different
Oh,
house?
They're in a different house, and the bigger pots are gnarling.
Wondering, Gail, Rudbeckia requires quite a bit of water. The plugs that we grow, you know, the Sunbeckias require more water. Wondering if it's the EC is a little bit too high because the plant might be a bit drier, and it's a little easier to keep your 4.5 inch wet than your 1 gallon maybe.
And that's a possibility. It is. It seems to have something to do with the size of the pot.
Yeah. I would keep the Rudbeckia requires quite a bit of water. Any of them, even Indian summer or autumn mystery or whatever, or autumn colors. But so I would increase the water, you know, but still send a picture.
I will. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your time.
Michael, there's a
Oh.
question for you. What is the maximum amount of time that plugs can sit prior to transplanting?
Well, that's a loaded question. We have some customers that will buy a plug tray, you know, very small customers, and they'll take every second row out, you know, and transplant that into the packs, and you know, leave the other ones in there. But technically, you know, a plug, if it's watered and fertilized, can sit in there for a very long period of time, probably even you know, some varieties, you know, up to a month they could sit in there, providing that they're kept wet and they're kept fertilized. You know, they'll stretch and they'll grow, and but you'll be pleasantly surprised how much a plant can grow, you know, with a root system, you know, confined into a straitjacket. So up to a month, you know, certain varieties can sit there. Growers have used the technique, like I said, of planting every second row, you know, let the other one sit so that they have 2 crops, you know. But ideally, when you time your plugs coming in, time them so that you have smaller loads coming on a more regular basis. And I know that probably requires more trips to the trucking depot, or it requires more trips of you on the road in a possible snowstorm. All these things, you know, are possible, but it'll benefit you workload wise and loss wise to bring in smaller amounts more often than just all of it at once and then try to deal with it, because you're spending a lot of time in your day trying to keep these plugs watered and fertilized while that takes away time from transplanting or looking for bugs or pinching or anything like that. So that's why I said it's a loaded question. It can sit for a month, yet I don't recommend that. There's other ways, you know, to get a good crop, you know, and even a plug that sat there for a month probably needs a pinch, and you've now set it back for a month, you know, or 2 weeks, because of course it would have grown a lot faster if you'd planted that plug the week that it arrived, because it gets new roots, new soil, and it starts growing right away and developing, rather than being confined in this little cell. So hopefully that answers it.
But Michael, I think that's a good topic to expand as well. The physiological age of the plant for flowering is important. So when the plugs come in, you know, ideally they come in because they're ready for transplanting. They're already root bound, so that you could remove them from the plugs. So my suggestion would be that I have seen that if they are more than a week old, they become woody. There's a lot of flowers on them, especially with those petunias. That picture I showed you, that
Yeah.
they will have a tendency not to produce too many roots because they're already mature. So I think our point is that just be careful, order slowly or something, or be ready to transplant them. Don't wait too long because we want the a veg plant to go into veg right away, not become generative, and then you have to cut the flowers off, and then it will be slowly, and that does affect the plant quality. Michael, question from Vanessa.
Let's see here. We have 3 new messages. Michael, you said your slow release is yeah, 12/6/27. Yes, that's not an Osmo Code brand. It's a brand from Nutrien, from Edwin, or oh, who's in the south? Sorry, his name escapes me. Emil. Emil is in the south, and Edwin is up here. So yes, and it's and I buy the 6-month formula. That hanging basket formula 12/6/27 has a 6-month lifespan, which means it also benefits your customer.
Michael, we have some too.
You do?
14, yeah. 14 is 3-4 months, and 2156 is 5-6 months.
Yes, 2156 would be very comparable, Rob, from Professional Gardener. Rob was with Pro Gardener. And you know, the 6 months is definitely recommended so that your customer benefits from it. Thanks, Rob. Vanessa had a question. Remember those ping pong gomphrena pictures I sent you? They're getting more leaves. Could they have been sensitive to the small plug size? Vanessa sent me a picture of a gomphrena ping pong, which is a rather unique, different kind of plant, gomphrena, but very cute, and because it makes purpley pink balls on the plant. And she showed me a picture of the gomphrena leaves being lime green, blotchy lime green. And I had noticed that on mine as well. Now, gomphrena is grown from seed. This particular one's grown from seed. So it could have been, you know, I dismissed it basically because they're still developing properly and they're still growing. Vanessa asks, you know, could it have been from that they were in a small plug size? And ours weren't, you know, and even when they were growing, when there's less leaves on the plant, we're already doing this blotchiness. So it could have been, you know, that you see lime colored leaves if you don't fertilize your plugs that you're trying to hold long, if you don't fertilize them enough. But in this case, I want to attribute it to the seed source, because yours were doing it and mine are as well, but they seem to be growing fine.
Michael, could it be like, because mine stayed the same size the whole time they were in, from the time I seeded them in that 50 cell,
No.
like the same kind of cells I buy from you. I seeded it in there, multiple seeded, because I tried one seed last year and it didn't do anything.
Right.
And as soon as I pulled it out and transplanted them into a 3.5,
yeah,
it had a disgusting color, but I just thought that was because the had been in there for 10 weeks. But I'm wondering if it could gomphrena be sensitive to a tight space, and then it just needs more space to grow, or is like, because it only ever had like 2 leaves, and then now it's starting to get 4 or 6.
Oh, that's interesting. Mine are in the 50. I haven't been in there for 10 weeks, you know, maybe 5 weeks, because it's not a real fast growing plant. But I would say that, you know, mine had probably 6 or 8 leaves, and they were all lime colored. So it did grow and develop properly in the time that we allot for it.
Right.
So that's why I think there's something wrong with the seed being, being a little off kilter, because you and I, under different growing conditions, are getting the same result. It's not like you bought the plugs, and then they were lime green and you were wondering. These you seeded yourself. So I would say it has to be the seed.
So can Gomfrina be from a cutting?
Yes, I believe there's a Gomfrina from cutting. Yeah.
We got a Gomfrina from Devon as a backup plan.
Yeah.
And they came in beautiful with little purple balls on them.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe they are getting cuttings in versus seeding.
Theirs wasn't called ping pong, was it, from Devon?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then there is a vegetative Gomfrina out there. Ping pong is just the seeded type.
Okay.
Okay.
Debbie, on Facebook, you posted some prices of the no hold bar. What is that the price for everything or just for top 10 plots?
Sorry, what was that? The price of what?
You posted some information on Facebook on the price you are charging for the, and then you said no hold bar. What does that mean?
Oh, okay. So I get about 200 phone calls a day from people asking the price of things.
Okay.
And to help deflect as a
Right.
preventative measure some of those phone calls, we put our prices on our website.
Okay.
It's super irritating to get phone calls about prices.
Well,
And so, but then someone will call and they'll be like, oh, I saw the price of this. Will you hold it for me? And we're like,
Oh.
no, on it, you need to come buy it.
Okay. No hold. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
So generally, is everybody upping their price over last year? We don't have to say how much we charge, but things have no doubt gotten more expensive. So is everybody going to stick with last year's price, or are we going up?
Everything's going up a little bit.
Yeah. Vanessa, what about you?
Well, I pretty much take my cue from Deb, but I am not close enough to Edmonton. So we are lower than what Deb is just because of our area. But that said, the gas bill was rather interesting conversation.
So Gail is saying every plant's going up 25 cents. Tasha, what about you? You're just south of Edmonton.
Yeah, I was just typing in the chat. I feel like for years I have charged more than everybody else. So I'm hesitant to increase my prices just because I already feel like I'm more than everyone else. And so I don't know, I just feel like there's a stigma there and I feel like I shouldn't, but my expenses have gone up. So I just don't even know what to do. And I'm opening tomorrow and I legit haven't priced anything yet because I'm stressed out about it.
You haven't priced anything? You open tomorrow?
That is, I like to roll like 9 to midnight is my jam.
Oh
So everything else is done except my pricing because I'm like, okay, am I just keeping my prices the same? Expenses have gone up. But like I said, I feel like I charge more than every freaking other greenhouse out there. So I feel like I need to just hold my prices until people catch up.
But Tasha, like your customers are already used to paying what you say is more than somebody else. So
yeah, but now we have like 2 other greenhouses in my area that I didn't have before that again are like charging lower prices. So I'm like, do I want to like all of a sudden start a race to the bottom, which like this business hasn't been about the last 40 years, or do I just keep them the same and wait for other people's to like bump theirs up more so that I'm just like a little bit more instead of a lot more?
It's not about,
it's so hard.
It's not about what the neighbor's charging though. Like that's not how you need to come to what you decide to price. You need to price based on your, expenses and the margins and your wages and the gas bills. Like make sure you're charging enough that you have something left at the end.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I guess I just like I'm nervous that, you know, we've already lost some of our customer base likes to now like kind of split between the three greenhouses. So it's like, yeah, I just don't want to give them a reason to give me less of the share they're already starting to split.
But if you were like the race to the bottom is a very interesting thing to stay away from.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's you know, somebody may charge less, but they're using less quality ingredients, or they're losing, you know, they're not doing as much, or they're not paying themselves a wage, or you know, all these kinds of things. And you
Yeah.
cannot, you have to charge what you think is fair. And if you didn't increase your prices this year, but next year you had to increase a lot because now all of a sudden you realize that you shouldn't have held your price, then it's harder to get that than it is if you increase a little bit each year. I am a firm believer that customers do not realize what they paid last year. I think there's very few customers that come and says, "Oh, hey, I think that hanging baskets was $49.75 last year, and now it's $50." You know, like I have trouble believing that there's anybody that that realizes or you know what they paid last year.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question for the group. So for my proven winner petunias, I charge $5.99. For my other petunias, I charge $4.99. And so in the past, we charged $4.50, and then we upped it to $4.75, and then we upped it to $4.95. And then last year, I was like chicken across the $5 mark with all petunias, so I upped it from $4.95 to $4.99. You know, but like, yeah, what do you think a customer's perception is of crossing that $5 line?
For us, like we're open and we're not close to Edmonton at all. We're 2 hours away from Edmonton. But with the pot price that we're now mandated to use and the stupid trays that take up more space,
Yeah.
we're $7 and nobody bats an eye because we sell it as the self-cleaning petunia. And people like we sell out of those before we sell out of any other petunia. And we won't restock them because we don't have extra room. But
yeah. And what do you charge your non-proven winner petunias? Do you mind me asking?
They are $5. 5 even, like 5 flat. And then
flat. Yeah.
and then they're and then the proven winners are all, I think there might even be $7.50 this year. I can't remember. I can't remember prices, but yeah.
So like, how do you think a customer would react if you upped your regular petunias to $5.25?
We upped all of our petunias this year and nobody has said a word. And we
had $5. Yeah.
We had crazy people coming in today buying petunias madly because they figured they're not going to get them.
That's how we have people coming in for like the Vista proven winner petunias that they think are like I was going to say the bee's knees, but now that is a petunia name, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay.
We're $7.75 for petunias for proven winners and $5 for non-proven winners.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to charge what they're comfortable with. Not everybody's in the same position, you know, like it's not always fair to compare one price with the other, you know, based on many factors other than location. So a person has to be fair, you know. Maybe in the fall we should have some workshops, you know, on pricing things, you know, how do you price things, and then you would have to put those numbers in yourself. And you know, we have to be careful that we don't you know, use somebody else's price to gauge our own prices with. So we, you know, take all of these prices with a grain of salt. You know, yes, I mean, there is a you know, a couple of people that come to mind, you know, that could probably do a workshop on, you know, how do you properly price something. And, you know, that is different for everybody. How big is your mortgage? How many staff do you have? What do you pay your staff? Because labor is still our number one expense, you know, in this business. And you know, are you charging a fair price? What is the cost of your overhead, your utilities? All these things are different. So we have to be careful how we interpret individual pricing.
Very true.
You know, the other so we talked about powdery mildew. And, you know, one of my other questions was, you know, are we, because of the dry weather, are we battling more fungus gnats and shore flies, or are we, is it less than normal? Where's everybody at?
We've had crazy aphids already. That's the main one. Well, there's a few, I'm sure, shore flies and whatever running around, but the aphids hit like normally it's like a little bit everywhere, but this year they're like concentrated on one section. And say there's like 30 baskets of the same thing in a row. There's like 4 of them that are just covered in aphids, and then go to somewhere else in the greenhouse and they're just covered there, but none of the other neighboring baskets. So for me, that's weird because we haven't seen that before. Usually it's the whole greenhouse.
Hey, Rob, have you do you got any take on that? Like, if there, can we still buy Intercept, Rob, or Tahiba? Tahiba's here too.
Yes, you can buy Intercept.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you and I went over a rate, you know, because Intercept is a little different than some of the liquid forms that are out there. You know, it's a very small amount, right, Rob, that you need?
Was it 60 grams? No, 6
16.
grams.
No, yeah, it was 16 grams in 100 liters. It was, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So to measure that, you pretty much need a postal scale, you know, to get that.
Michael, if I can go back to pricing things, Wayne Chichak was very good at doing that.
Who? Wayne? Who?
Wayne Chichak. Greenland?
Oh, from Greenland.
Yeah.
Okay. Is he still there?
Well, he's retired, but he might be willing to speak at one of these things.
Okay. Okay. If you have some contact information with during the convention this fall in November in Red Deer, we're planning to do a day of discovery instead of a bus tour. You know, we did 2 wonderful bus tours the last 2 years, and the consensus as a board was to do that, and to have a pricing workshop, Rob, you know, I think would be very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Tasha asks, Rob, is Intercept safe for bees?
No, definitely not.
That's a.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Loretta.
About, you know, I use Intercept on the plug trays when I get them in. I usually get them, they're usually all in my greenhouse by about the 10th, 11th of March. I intercept everything that I've purchased. And it's when I do that, I don't have a problem with aphids. No killed bees, not even, I tend to get honeybees coming in my greenhouse by like mid-April, and none of them die. So if you do it at that time, it seems to be okay. But if you ever use it later in the year, you'll get dead bees through your greenhouse everywhere. So early, good, later, bad. And I use about that rate. Actually, it was at 13 grams per 100 liters of water, I think, is what I use for my rate. Yeah. And it's very effective.
So, Loretta, you're saying before they come out of before the bees come out of dormancy?
I have a lot of hives in my area, so I get honeybees much earlier than bumblebees, like wild bees. And they don't seem to be affected by, like, they're in my greenhouse by about mid-April, and they don't seem to be affected at all. I don't see any dead bees. But before I realized it killed bees, and I did use it late in the season, I saw dead bees in my greenhouse everywhere. So if I do it early enough, it seems to be okay. Because that Intercept is effective. Like, if you use it, then you're killed the aphids for about a month.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, at least with Intercept, you get a very long. And Loretta, do you drench it on, or do you on the plugs, or do you just spray it on?
I drench it. I drench it. Well, I use the spray nozzle, so it covers the leaves, but I drench it as well.
Yeah, but you make sure some gets on the soil.
Oh yes, I make sure the soil is wet with it when I'm finished with them. Yeah, so it gets they can take it up into the plant. Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, like you say, using it early, you know, and you know, that helps mitigate. There is always been a debate about bee death, you know, and imidaclopride. So you know, Intercept or Alias or Admire, you know, any of those ones, it has been There has been a debate, you know, but I mean, better safe than sorry. So
Yeah,
go ahead,
Michael,
Mirza.
we have Prashant there who bought a greenhouse from Don Bouchard. I just want to ask him how is he doing and what are the hurdles or crop. Prashant, are you there? Un-
Yes, I'm
unmute.
very much
Yeah.
here, but I'm not in a position to turn on my camera.
Okay. But just tell us briefly how are the crops doing? How is your marketing happening? What's going on?
The crops are going fine. So this is my first year, as you know, I have mentioned before, and
Right.
I was expecting the produce to come at this time, but we started picking like about 10 days ago, and selling is a problem, but like production is not at this time. Your sister, Mrs. Tayeba, she is helping us a lot. And she's coming every weekend almost, and then taking a look at the plants and telling me and my wife how to read the plants, right? And how to adjust whatever we have to. And today, actually, we switched to 5-6-27, the fertilizers that you have designed along with your system.
Yeah, I'm more interested in your marketing. You originally thought you will stay with the farmers market mostly.
Yes,
So,
that is still the plan, Dr. Mirza, but farmers market, they do not start until May, right?
oh, I see. Oh,
Right, and
except few. Yeah.
right now we have a glut. Like we have a really a big glut of cucumbers.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right. Yeah. No, keep on kicking, I guess. Marketing.
yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
whatever we can. Yeah. No, thank you, Dr.
I
Mirza.
think it is worth talking to pick and pack boys as well. Uh, I'll send you the contact for Phil Teamstra.
Sure.
I think there's some year-round market as well in Calgary, but I don't know how hard it is to enter into those markets. So have a chat with him. I'll send you his phone number.
For sure.
And Phil Teamstra. He goes to many markets. Yeah, so it's good to connect with them as well.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be very helpful. Thank you so much.
Rob from Pro Gardener has said there's a product called Bee Leaf as an insecticide, and that can be used fairly safely. And then it's a bee safe insecticide, and so is Altus. Altus is another liquid product that is effective against aphids and also for a longer period of time, like Intercept or Admire, and it's also Bee Safe. So Bee Safe for Bee Leaf and Altus. We are entering the spring, and most of you are open. Is anybody worried about the drought? We have very little snow this winter. I'm sure in Saskatchewan it's the same, you know, in Gail's area. Is anybody worried about people not buying plants because it's dry? Debbie, what do you think?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm not worried about people shopping because of the drought. We haven't done any marketing about it, but we will soon. We always promote drought tolerant plants. Those are always our top videos for views. And then also because they work good in the hot sun, but we're also going to promote our surfactant, which is a Wet My Plant solution that we had developed for retail. And then people are going to be shopping before drought restrictions are in place. So they'll buy it, and then if there are restrictions, water restrictions, it'll probably come into play after they've already made their purchase. So I don't think it'll slow anybody down, but I think that we can provide them with education on how to be more water efficient using water reservoir pots and baskets. They could cut their watering down probably by 25-30% easily, just switching pots, maybe half by switching pots.
And that's mostly because the water doesn't run through; it gets caught in the reservoir. I mean,
Exactly.
a plant of a certain hanging basket size still needs a certain amount of water. You know, sorry, a plant, like a physical plant, a certain size still needs a certain amount of water. But having it in a pot that preserves the water and maybe wicks it up, you say?
Yeah, and we have been working on doing some cross promotion with a local irrigation company. If you're irrigating, like using water lines, you can be a lot more efficient with your usage. So those are some things, like we've been thinking about it, but I don't think it'll slow anyone down, but we can still give them the tools to be more efficient.
Yeah, I think drip irrigation, you know, is important rather than, you know, lawn sprinklers or, you know, just an open hose. Even as a grower, Rob and other suppliers sell a product called AGGA 2000, which is a commercial surfactant. What you're marketing, Debbie, works very well for the homeowner. You know, what we buy as commercial growers is probably a little cost prohibitive for the homeowner, and also comes in a very large container. So the AGGA 2000 is what we add to all our fertilizer. We add a small amount because we believe that one multivitamin per day is better than 7 on Sunday. And we add that to all our fertilizer the whole time, so that it builds up a little bit in the soil over time, and that will benefit, you know, the grower, the gardener. I mean, the person who purchases them.
Yeah.
So Vanessa asks if water tables decrease water use. Well, they don't decrease water use because, like we said earlier, a plant of a certain physical size needs a certain amount of water. But what you do gain with flood tables is the ability to catch what the plant doesn't use, because it doesn't just run on the ground, and recirculate it if you want with the right equipment. So do water tables decrease water use? Yes, they will, because you're able to recycle it. Anybody else? Beth, what do you think? Will there be less plant sales because of potential water restrictions? You're a little bit further south. I don't know how dry it is in the Stettler area.
We're super dry, and we saw sales decrease last year because of the drought. So I would expect to see, and I've heard people talking about it. I expect a bit of a drop or a change in the type of plants that people are buying. But they're eager, and my phone's ringing off the hook. So we'll see what at the end of the year it ends up being.
Okay. And Tahiba, how imminent is it in Calgary? The water? Yeah, you're a lot closer to the drought than we are.
Yes, it's quite dry. Actually, City of Calgary is putting some restrictions on water usage for your lawn and the garden. So that's coming earlier than ever before. So we are in the same boat. Yes. And we are selling lots of penetrator too for the same purpose. And mostly lawn, for the lawns and the gardens, people are using much less. And they are also collecting rain barrels, you know, water in there. So they are trying to do that kind of things as well.
Catching water if it does rain.
If it does rain, yes.
Yeah. And what did you call the product? What did you say?
It's penetrator. I did a little presentation, couple of chats before. It's surfactant. It's a wetting agent with few other things in it to enhance its capability of making soil wet and hold the moisture longer in the soil.
That's right. Yeah,
more.
I do remember that because you did some research that
That's right.
the main ingredient in your product works better than what it does in others. You did some
Yes,
research on
it's
that.
silica base. It's
Silica
silica
base.
base.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
Do you have any experience, Tahiba, with soil mixtures with gel in it? That was a kind of a hip thing a couple of years ago.
Yes, I actually last year I bought plants for my own garden, and that was in there. The gel was there, but my experience was that it will hold the moisture, and it wouldn't let go when the soil will become dry around it.
Mm.
So that was my experience.
Oh.
You can see that dry kind of layer around a pocket of water, but it wouldn't just let go to the roots. So
Interesting.
yeah, so that's what I noticed. So I watered it like I always do, but those big chunks, they were still there,
They're still dry. So
still dry. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So
Rob, what have you heard? You talk to a lot of people in being on the road. What's the general consensus?
I'm mostly upbeat and optimistic. There hasn't been much discussion about the drought, to be honest. So
Are we in a similar situation where people say groceries are so expensive, fuel is $1.50 some? I'm staying home like I was during COVID, and therefore spend more in the garden.
yeah, and that's very true, Michael. We expect some of that, and we've seen it before, right?
if I can interject, we are getting a lot more questions when people come in to pick up stuff like growing media and fertilizer and that kind of thing. Is there anything which I can use so my water can last much longer, so I don't have to water every day? If I can get by every 2 or 3 days. So we are getting that kind of questions in our business a lot this year,
Uh,
more than ever before.
And other than the wedding agent, is there something else that you offer as a supply company that could help us as growers and therefore our homeowners?
No, there's nothing. If somebody tells you yes, there is, then it's not believable. But there's nothing which can do
No.
that job. Yes.
Okay.
So
There's no snake oil out there
no,
that
no
does it.
snake oil. There are snake oils, but they are not. They are not worth it. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping somebody else has something to interject. If somebody has a opinion on any of the topics we've talked about, or more questions, I did get the penetrator. It's a very nice product. Good, so we know that works, and it'll be great to educate, our customers. I mean, we identified a few things already that we can help our customers with. So
Good.
The wedding agent, drip irrigation, catching water in rain barrels. We can educate our customers that way. So
Yes, when I develop the different products, I try that on my own lawn or on my
okay.
own garden first.
Yeah.
So last year I put penetrator 1 liter per 1,000 square foot. So this year I'm digging down in the root zone and see how deep the moisture is. And I dig my core half between neighbor side and half on my side. My side grass is looking real lush and green. And you could see the difference in that, how much water is on one side and how much water is on the other side. Like the other side is brown, and mine is like you can have a line draw right through lush green grass and then the brown grass on the other side. So we mostly recommend that for golf courses and the lawns. That's where they normally like to use more water to make the lawn lush. So it works really well in there too.
And just to repeat, you applied the penetrator last year, so last growing season.
I applied that in fall.
In the fall, but it lasted throughout the winter, and it's
Throughout the
helping you
winter.
in the spring.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I applied my organic fertilizer, which we have. Turf Master is called for the lawns. And then I applied 1 liter per 1,000 square foot on my lawn. And I was good for whole season.
Wow.
Now I don't need to apply any for this year. I'm monitoring, taking the cores and seeing that how they are behaving. Is there any moisture retention or any dry spot or anything? But so far I haven't seen anything. So it lasted through the winter.
Interesting.
So
That's good.
yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Mirza, any thoughts from you on water preservation?
Yeah, but I think recycling has to come back, especially with the vegetable growers. That's very important that we're practicing, but recycling has got its own problem, that how to top up the solutions. So it will be interesting to see how this drought affects us. But some of the methods already we talked about, that basically the idea is not to lose too much moisture to the air. Plant have to absorb water, and it has to go to the air. That's where they contribute towards our air humidity. So yes, for our cultivators, I think luckily we are on the list of the government that it would not apply to us. They are beginning with the municipalities, homeowners, less use lawns, and those sort of things. So we'll see what happens.
We have somebody made a note. I've used it on my bedding plants, and I noticed I used it on my bedding plants, and I noticed that I don't have to water as much my bedding plants as I did last year. Now I have to watch that I don't overwater. So if you could cut down on the hours of watering or the ability to water just in the morning, because you can get through all your greenhouses quicker, then that has an added benefit that things like powdery mildew or botrytis don't get out of control either. So that's cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Good.
All right then. Yeah, great
That's it.
conversation. Really.
Yeah, it's 8:37. I like this conversation where we have lots of contributing members, who are here today. So
Michael, which stock tank can we mix the surfactant?
so sorry. Oh, well, which stock tank can we mix? You can mix it in either. We mix it ourselves in the Nature Source barrel.
Yeah.
And we use 100 milliliters for 15,000 liters.
So is the penetrator. I'm using with a couple of cannabis growers and with coco peat, and it has been very, very interesting on its water holding characteristics, the root and everything. So we added with 5627, the rate recommended by AGGA. So yeah, I think all these surfactants are very, very interesting and will play a big role in future, you see, on water preservation. All right, Michael, then we should say goodbye. And
yep, and
Vanessa,
yeah, Vanessa, 100 milliliters and 15,000 liters is correct. We use we don't use penetrator. We use Agrel 2000, which is another product. It's not silicone based, and it's rather expensive because a jar, 10-liter jar, is over $1,000. But so a person might have to share that with others if you're having to use only so little. So Tahiba,
yes,
would additives like other organic material like cocoa coir or even wood shavings, would any of that help retain moisture, or is there other negative effects from that?
You mean in the gardens and
No, I was
flower
thinking
beds?
in the potting soil that we use, that we offer our customers, like other than adding something to the water, could we add something to the soil other than the gel?
Yes, you can add chips, wood chips, very small size, not the big chunks.
Okay.
That does help. It absorbs a lot more moisture and it holds it too. And then it let it go when the roots are around and they need it.
Okay.
That has been very successfully tried.
Okay.
So it could be done that way too. Yes.
Yeah. So wood chips added to your soil.
Yes, yeah, and coca fiber too, the thick ones, not the very fine ones, thick ones, they also hold the moisture really nicely.
Okay, so the like the nuggets or smaller than the nuggets?
Smaller than the nuggets.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Good. Well, all right, everybody. This is very entertaining.
Okay, thank you very much, and good
Thank you
night.
too. Good night to Eba. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Have a great
everyone.